ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 32, Entanglement in Fruitive Activities. So currently we are in the first section of this chapter, where we are discussing attached and detached worker, text 1 to 7. So we are at text 6. Nivritti dharma nirata nirmama nirahankataha Swadharmaptena satvena parishuddhena chetasa. Translation.
By executing one's occupational duties, acting with detachment and without a sense of proprietorship or false egoism, one is posted in one's constitutional position by dint of complete purification of consciousness, and by thus executing so-called material duties, he can easily enter into the kingdom of God. Purport. Here the word Nivritti Dharma Nirata means constantly engaging in executing religious activities for detachment. There are two kinds of religious performances. One is called Pravritti Dharma, which means the religious activities performed by the Grahamedis for elevation to higher planets or for economic prosperity. The final aim of which is sense gratification. Everyone in the material world has the sense of overlordship. This is called Pravritti. But the opposite type of religious performance, which is called Nivritti, is to act for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Engaged in devotional service in Krishna consciousness, one has no proprietorship claim, nor is one situated in the false egoism of thinking that he is God or the master. He always thinks himself the servant. That is the process of purifying consciousness. With pure consciousness only can one enter into the kingdom of God. Materialistic persons, in their elevated condition, can enter any one of the planets within this material world, but all are subject to dissolution over and over again. Hare Krishna.
So, Nivritti dharma nirataha, nirmama nirahankataha. So here Kapila Muni says, executing one's occupational duties. So this is the beautiful summary of Bhagavad Gita actually. Executing one's occupational duties, acting with detachment and without the sense of proprietorship or false egoism, one is posted in one's constitutional position by the dint of complete purification of consciousness. And thus, by executing the so-called material duties, he can very easily enter kingdom of God. Very beautiful summary of Bhagavad Gita in Srimad Bhagavatam. This is exactly what Bhagavad Gita is describing about. One has to execute one's prescribed duties. Prescribed duties will come from one's psychophysical nature, technically which is called as Varnashram. Right. With detachment and without the sense of proprietorship. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains the word Pravritti Marga and Nivritti Marga. Pravritti marga means the marga which is on the bodily platform, which is the marga of enjoyment. Ahara, nidra, bhaya, ityadi. That is the pravritti marga. What is the nivritti marga? Nivritti marga means acting in Krishna consciousness, performing devotional engagements. That is called as nivritti marga. So here Prabhupada mentions these two are opposite marga, right? Chaitanya Charitamrita explains this. Atmendriya pritivancha dhare kamanam, Krishnendriya pritivancha dhare premanam. So there is a difference between kama and prema. So one has to perform one's occupational duties, and one has to be always also active in devotional service. And this way one can enter the kingdom of God. Prabhupada writes here that advanced materialist will also enter another planet, but all these planets are subjected to devolution. Abrahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna. Text 7. Suryadvarena te yanti Purusham Vishvatomukham Paravaresham Prakritim Asya Utpatyanta Bhavanam.
Translation: through the path of illumination, such liberated persons approach the complete personality of Godhead, who is the proprietor of the material and spiritual worlds and is the supreme cause of their manifestation and dissolution. Purport: the word Surya Varane means the illuminated path or through the sun planet. The illuminated path is devotional service. It is advised in the Vedas not to pass through the darkness but to pass through the sun planet. It is also recommended here that by traversing the illuminated path, one can be freed from contamination of the material modes of nature. By that path, one can enter into the kingdom where the completely perfect personality of Godhead resides. The words Purusham Visvato Mukham means the supreme personality of Godhead, who is all perfect. All living entities other than the supreme personality of Godhead are very small, although they may be big by our calculation. Everyone is infinitesimal, and therefore in the Vedas, the Supreme Lord is called the Supreme Eternal amongst all eternals. He is the proprietor of the material and spiritual worlds and the supreme cause of manifestation. Material nature is only the ingredient because actually the manifestation is caused by his energy. The material energy is also his energy, just as the combination of father and mother is the cause of childbirth. So the combination of the material energy and the glance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of the manifestation of the material world. The efficient cause is therefore not matter, but the Lord himself. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Next, Kapila Muni explains, Surya Dvarena Teyanti. Through the path of illumination, such liberated person approach the complete personality of Godhead, Purusham Vishvato Mukham, Paravaresham, who is the proprietor of the material and the spiritual worlds, and is the supreme cause of their manifestation and dissolution. He is the proprietor and the supreme cause. So, how beautifully things are connected, just see here. Is the proprietor and the supreme cause is the Ishavasya principle. Ishavasyam idam sarvam. Yat kinchit jagatyam jagat. And how this is how all the Vedic literatures, there is no contradiction within the Vedic literatures. People find the apparent contradiction only because they are unable to see the context and the greater plan of the Supreme Lord. And this happens because they are not approaching the Vedas through disciplic succession. But when we read Srila Prabhupada books, we are very in the safe hands of Srila Prabhupada purports, where we are approaching the Vedas through disciplic succession. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, the path of the devotee is called as Surya Dvarena, the illuminated path, right? And that illuminated path is devotional service. Even in Ishopanishad, this is being explained that, that their path is as glorious as the sun. Path is glorious as the sun. So that is, the Ishopanishad talks about. One is not interested in the path of darkness. Tamasoma, Jyotirgamaya. So Vedas also talk about, give up this tamas and have the illuminated path. Lord is called as Purusha Vishvato Mukham. Why? Because he is the supreme personality of Godhead, and sometimes some of the opulence within the material world possessed by somebody may be very big by our calculation. Like, we may find Ambani to be extremely rich. I remember the day Ambani's wealth reached something like 2,40,000 crores, and when he became the richest Asian. There was the Times of India, and even I think Sakal also. There was a headline, and there was like 2, 4, and then there was 0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0,0, 12 zeros. So that 2,40,000 crore, and this is saying that how this person is rich. Or sometimes somebody's beauty may appear to be like unfading, supreme beauty, or and then similarly somebody's strength may appear like that. But compared to the Supreme Lord, all living entities, they are just minute fig in front of the Supreme Lord. The Lord is Vibhu, and the living entity, however great he is simply Anu, infinitesimal. The Lord is infinite. The Lord is also proprietor of the material energy and the spiritual energy. And by the combination of this material and spiritual energy, activities of living entity, they are facilitated in the material world. The glance of the Lord is called material, is impregnates the material nature with living entities. And this is how Prabhupada says, therefore the efficient cause is not the matter, but the Supreme Lord himself. So this is the efficient cause, Sarva Karana Karanam. And that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Scientists make the mistake thinking that the efficient cause is the matter. No, but efficient cause is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now we enter the second section, text 8 to 15, which describe now Hiranyagarbha worshippers. Text 8. द्विप्रार्ध अवसाने यप्रलयो ब्रह्मणस्तुते तावदध्यासते लोकं परस्य परचिन्तकाः. Translation.
Worshippers of the Hiranyagarbha, expansion of the personality of Godhead, remain within this material world until the end of the two prarardhas, when Lord Brahma also dies. Purport. One dissolution is at the end of Brahma's day, and one is at the end of Brahma's life. Brahma dies at the end of two prarabdhas, at which time the entire material universe is dissolved. Persons who are worshippers of Hiranyagarbha, the plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, do not directly approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Vaikuntha. They remain within this universe on Satyaloka or other higher planets until the end of the life of Brahma. Then with Brahma, they are elevated to the spiritual kingdom. The words Parasya Para Chintaka means always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or being always Krishna conscious. When we speak of Krishna, this refers to the complete category of Vishnu Tattva. Krishna includes the three Purusha incarnations, namely Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and Shirodakshaya Vishnu, as well as all the incarnations together. This is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. Ramadi Murtishu Kala Niyamena Tishtan. Lord Krishna is perpetually situated in his many expansions, such as Rama, Narasimha, Vamana, Madhusudana, Vishnu, and Narayana. He exists with all his plenary portions and the portions of his plenary portions, and each of them is as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The words Parasya Para Chintaka means those who are fully Krishna conscious. Such persons enter directly into the kingdom of God, the Vaikuntha planets, or if they are worshippers of plenary portion, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, they remain within this universe until its dissolution, and after that they enter.
Dviparabdha avasane. Avasane means at the end of. Worshippers of the Hiranyagarbha, they remain within the material world until the end of Dviparardha, the two parardhas, the two halves So there is a Purvardha and Uttarardha of the life of Lord Brahma. So, and at the end of the two Parardhas, Lord Brahma dies, Lord Brahma concludes his life, and Lord Brahma goes back home, back to Godhead. And all these great personalities who remain in Satyaloka, along with Lord Brahma, they also return to the spiritual realm. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains there are two pralayas or two dissolutions. One is at the end of Kalpa, the day of Brahma, when Brahma goes to sleep, that is partial pralaya. And one is at the end of the life of Brahma, when Brahma dies, then there is complete pralaya, entire material universe is dissolved. So those who are the worshippers of the Hiranyagarbha, because this section is about worshippers of the Hiranyagarbha, they do not approach the Supreme Lord directly, right? They remain at the Satyaloka, and at the end of Brahma's life, then along with Brahma, they are elevated to the spiritual kingdom. Now look at this, how beautifully they are following Vaishnava etiquettes. Correct? So this is the quality of Vaishnava, and this is the quality of Vaishnava etiquettes. So this is very, very important, following Vaishnava etiquettes. Like, when we have to approach our spiritual master, it is always better to approach our spiritual master through our Shiksha Guru. So in my case, whenever, very rarely, because my spiritual master is Radhanath Swami Maharaj, and his time is very rare. But whenever I have to approach, I will never approach directly. We'll approach either through His Grace Radhesham Prabhu, who is my mentor, or through Janava Mataji, or Satyavati Mataji, Jaydev Prabhu, so on and so forth. So this is exactly all these great personalities they are also doing. Now they would have gone to the spiritual world of Vaikuntha, but they say no, we will go along with Lord Brahma, because Brahma is their mentor. How beautifully they are following this Vaishnava etiquette. Next, Srila Prabhupada focuses on Parasya Parachintaka, always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Means what? Means Prabhupada says being always Krishna conscious. And Prabhupada says when we say Krishna, Krishna means all incarnations include. Krishna means three Purusha incarnations, Ramadi Murtishu Kala Niyamina Chintans. Krishna includes Lord Ram, Narasimha, Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, all the. So all these, Krishna means complete range of all the Vishnu Tattvas. This is Parasya Parachintaka, those who are fully Krishna conscious. So this is how all these personalities, the worshippers of Hiranyagarbha, they remain within the universe until the dissolution, and then after that, along with Brahma, they will enter the spiritual kingdom. So however great one becomes in spiritual life, that spiritual life is such that by the virtue of being in the mission, one becomes senior. Okay, right? And that being in the mission is also not very easy. But however senior one becomes, one should never lose track of one's senior devotees, right? Especially our Shiksha Gurus. One should never lose track of those senior personalities. This is very, very important. One should not think, oh, so what? Like in my case, I have such great regards to His Grace Krishna Kishore Prabhu, because he was my first counselor. Of course, we have very friendly relationship because he is just 1 year elder to me, and we are together for last almost like 30 years together. But I'm always conscious and aware that he is, the personality. He was my counselor when I was chanting 4 rounds and he was chanting 8 rounds. And I tease him also, troll him that, Prabhuji, mere karan hi aap counselor bane. Nahi to aapko kaun aata counseling karke. So that is our friendly dealings. But however senior we become, however established we become in our spiritual life, one should always be aware of the great personalities, even, who have helped us to advance, who have helped us to make progress in our spiritual life. Correct? Sometimes the devotees may change their position, but one should be always very grateful for whatever. And this is being exhibited here by all these great saintly personalities who are waiting for Lord Brahma in Satyaloka, so that along with Brahma they will return to the spiritual kingdom of Vaikuntha. Text 9. Kshambo Anila Anila Viyatandriyartha Bhutadibhi Parivritam Pratisankshahirshuhu Avyakritam Vishati Yarhi Gunatrayatma Kalam Parakhya Anubhuya Parasvayambhu. Translation.
After experiencing the inhabitable time of the three modes of material nature, known as two parardhas, Lord Brahma closes the material universe, which is covered by the layers of earth, water, air, fire, ether, mind, ego, etc., and goes back to Godhead. Purport: the word avyakritam is very significant in this verse. The same meaning is stated in Bhagavad Gita in the word Sanatana. This material world is Vyakrita, or subject to change, and it finally dissolves. But after the dissolution of this material world, the manifestation of the spiritual world, the Sanatana Dhamma remains. That spiritual sky is called Avyakrita. That means, that which does not change. And there the Supreme Personality of Godhead resides. When after ruling over the material universe under the influence of the time element, Lord Brahma desires to dissolve it and enter into the kingdom of God, others then enter with him. Hare Krishna.
So this is now the might of Swayambhu, how he is closing his pastimes. Kshama. Okay, look at Kshama. Who is Kshama? Kshama is Prithvi. Because Prithvi Devi is known for Kshama. That is, the Prithvi is Kshama personified. Therefore, one name of Prithvi is Kshama. Kshama. Amba. Amba is Jala. Anala, Agni. Anila. Anila is Vayu. Viyata. Viyata means Shunya. Right? Making them, Viyata is Shunya. Viyata is the senses. Artha. Okay, so this is Indriya Artha. No, what is Viyata? Viyata is ether. Yeah, Viyata is ether. So after experiencing the given time, what Brahma is supposed to, the two parardha, Lord Brahma closes the material universe along with Bhumirapo Naro Vayu Khammano Buddhirevacha, all these elements, and then he goes back home, back to Godhead. So one word about Prithvi is Kshama, and therefore whenever we begin our day, we begin with that prayer. Which is that prayer?
Karagre vasate Lakshmi.
Right. Karagre vasate Lakshmi, Karamadhye Saraswati, Karamule tu Govindam, Prabhate Karadarshanam, and then Samudravasane Devi, Parvatastana Mandale, Vishnu Patni Namastubhyam, Padasparsham Kshamaswami. Okay. So this is how one should offer prayers to Prithvi Devi, Bhu Devi, who is Lakshmi herself, consort of Lord Vara. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, Avyakritam, the word is very significant, which means Sanatana. So what this word is, that means, although we have the experience of the material nature, which is constantly bhutva praliyate, there is constant birth and rebirth within the material world, but there is another world which is permanent in nature, which doesn't change, which is changeless. Parastasmattu bhavanyo. And then is a word which does not change, and that is called as Sanatana Dham, which remains. And this is the spiritual sky, which is Avyakrita. This does not change. So after ruling over the material world for the given period of time, and we have calculated so many times the period of Brahma's lifespan, right? So very scientifically that calculation is, Lord Brahma now desires to dissolve it. He winds up, just like sometimes you will see the shop owner, they will wind up their shop, take things inside and shutter down, close the shop, and he will go home. Similarly, Brahma will wind up his shutter down of the universe, and then he returns back home, back to Godhead, along with the great saintly personalities who are waiting for him at Satyaloka. Text 10. Evam paretya bhagavantamanopravishtha ye yogino jitasmaruttamanas viraga tenaiva sakkamamritam purusham puranam brahma pradhanamupayanti agathabhimanaha. Translation.
The yogis who become detached from the material world by practice of breathing exercises and control of the mind reach the planet of Brahma, which is far, far away. After giving up their bodies, they enter into the body of Lord Brahma, and therefore, when Brahma is liberated and goes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme Brahman, such yogis can also enter into the kingdom of God. Purport. By perfecting their yogic practice, yogic yogis can reach the highest planet Brahmaloka or Satyaloka, and after giving up their material bodies, they can enter into the body of Lord Brahma. Because they are not directly devotees of the Lord, they cannot get liberation directly. They have to wait until Brahma is liberated, and only then, along with Brahma, are they also liberated. It is clear that as long as a living entity is a worshipper of a particular demigod, his consciousness is absorbed in thoughts of that demigod, and therefore he cannot get direct liberation or entrance into the kingdom of God, nor can he merge into the impersonal effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such yogis or demigod worshippers are subjected to the chance of taking birth again when there is again creation.
Yeah. So this is the another perspective. Previous shloka we saw the perspective of Vaishnava etiquette. Now this is the another perspective. The yogis who become detached by the practice of breathing process, they now they are realizing that Lord Brahma is going to close his pastime, shut her down. They will reach planet of Brahma and enter the body of Lord Brahma. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, such yogis, because they have not taken shelter of the devotional service to the Supreme Lord, because they have not taken shelter of the devotional service to the Supreme Lord, they cannot directly reach the personality of Godhead. Right? So they have to take shelter of a pure devotee, that is Lord Brahma. And this is the limitation, Prabhupada writes, this is the limitation of demigod worship. Incidentally, this demigod, who is that demigod? Lord Brahma. He himself is a pure devotee. And this demigod, Lord Brahma, will carry them back home, back to Godhead. It's like Brahma is Adi Guru for our Sampradaya also. But this is the limitation, that while a devotee can directly reach the demigod worshippers, they have to depend on the demigod. And if at all the demigod is going back to the spiritual world, then they will go. Otherwise, they will go to the planet of demigod. And there is always a chance that they may take birth again for some other material activity. Yanti devavrata devan pitrun yanti pitrvrataha. Bhutani yanti bhuteja yanti madhyajinopima. And therefore, here in this shloka, Srila Prabhupada establishes supremacy of devotional service over all Vedic, all other paths. Text 11. Atatam sarvabhutanam hritpadmeshu kritalayam shrutvanubhavam sharanam vrajabhavena bhamini. Translation?
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yeah, go ahead.
Therefore, my dear mother, by devotional service, take direct shelter of the Supreme Personal of Godhead, who is seated in everyone's heart. One can attain direct contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in full Krishna consciousness and revive one's eternal relationship with him is as a lover, as supersoul, as son, as friend, or as master. One can re-establish the transcendental loving relationship with the Supreme Lord in so many ways, and that feeling is true oneness. The oneness of the Mayavad philosophers and the oneness of the Vaishnava philosophers are different. The Mayavadi and Vaishnava philosophers both want to merge into the Supreme, but the Vaishnavas do not lose their identities. They want to keep their identity of lover, parent, friend, or servant. In the transcendental world, the servant and master are one. That is the absolute platform. Although the relationship is servant and master, both the servant and the served stand on the same platform. That is oneness. Lord Kapila advised his mother that she did not need any indirect process. she was already situated in the direct process because the Supreme Lord had taken birth as her son. Actually, she did not need any further instruction because she was already in the perfectional stage. Kapila Deva advised her to continue in the same way. He therefore addressed his mother as Bhamini to indicate that she was already thinking of the Lord as her son. Devahuti is advised by Lord Kapila to take directly to devotional service, Krishna consciousness, because without that consciousness, one cannot become liberated from the clutches of Maya. Thank you, Prabhu.
Now, Kapila Muni says, Atate sarvabhutana, vraja bhavena bhamini. Later, when we will see, some of the Acharya commentaries, this vraja stands for Vrajadham Vrindavan. That in the mood of Vrindavan, O my mother, O Bhamini, please take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, it is such a beautiful exercise. If somebody can just count the names that Kapila Muni is using for his mother, right? He is calling her Bhamini, Amba, O Mata, then Manavi, O daughter of Manu, and maybe Harshit Prabhu, good exercise. One can just go through the translations and get those words. How beautifully there is the conversation between mother and the child, son. My dear mother, by devotional service, take direct shelter of the Supreme. And who is Supreme? He's sitting in front of him, in front of her, right? She has given birth to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, but still one has to follow the process. Who is seated in everyone's heart? In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that one can attain the direct contact with the Supreme in one of the 5 rasas, that is Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. And thus one can have the oneness in interest with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The oneness that Mayavadis think of is losing identity, and that's a very low-level, dirty oneness. But a devotee thinks of a oneness that is of one in the interest while retaining one's identity. Because on the absolute platform, there is no difference between the servant and the master, right? And that's why you will see even Gopakumar, they are sitting on Krishna's shoulder and wrestling with Krishna and defeating Krishna. And it is just purely filled with the love pastimes. Servant and the master, they are on the same platform. What is that platform? Satchid Ananda. That is the platform, right? It's like the fish has taken shelter of the ocean, and ocean is naturally situated by giving shelter to fish, and the fish is naturally situated by giving shelter by taking shelter of the ocean. So here Kapila Muni says, my dear mother, this process may sound very astounding that from here you go to Satyaloka and then count, and Satyaloka you do some tapasya, keep on flying around the universe and this and that, wait for Brahma's lifespan to end, then enter the body of Brahma, along with Brahma you end, and the material phenomena may appear very fantastic, but there is always a chance why the devotee is not interested in the material phenomena, because there is always a chance that one may get distracted by the material phantasmagoria. This Prabhupada's specific word, material phantasmagoria. Because, it is like so many devotee kids, when they graduate from their place and when they enter the outside world, they are just, bewildered, illusioned, distracted, and rightly so, according to their age, by the chakachand of the material world, right? Or just imagine the first time an Indian goes to the developed country like America or Europe, what happens? He will be like, oh my God, this also work, bullet train, this, that. And he will be enamored by the material creation. So, because the devotional service is so simple, so straightforward, but here says, my dear mother, do not think of another path. You are already Bhamini. You are already thinking of me as your son. Now look at this, thinking of me as your son. You are already established in that relationship. Continue with your devotional service. And by this devotional service, you will attain me without fail and without any extraneous endeavors that the yogis have to do. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
Gaura Bhakta ki jai. Thank you,
Yeah.
Prabhupada. Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
Prabhupada. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, everyone. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you. Hare
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.